Hey everybody. Today we're going to talk about Rorschach. The last one, two, three, four issues before the end. So basically like around what, half of the series? Um Maybe a little less. But yeah. Um I'll do it I'll do them individually, but I will hit points where I will talk about how I think this is going to affect the Watchmen going forward. So that's that. Um, and it will be a tad bit political because they did address what 9/11 would look like in the Watchmen universe. Spoiler alert: Dr. Manhattan did absolutely nothing. Seriously, he did absolutely nothing. But we'll get there. Anyway, if you remember my last review of Rorschach, they had a stand-in for Steve Ditko, and he thought he was Rorschach. And I thought he could be too. But I don't think he is anymore because we find out what an illusion would look like in Watchmen Universe 2. Because they start talking about how the guy thinks Matt had left Earth and unlike the book, the giant squid attack wasn't caused by Ozzy. The, he the guy thinks that Manhattan was left Earth trying to fight them, like in a fucking cartoon. And you find out this Laura person could easily brainwash these guys into being Rorschach. Like she's done it before. And she thinks Turley's the guy running against Redford. Redford is the gentleman that was running for president at the end of Watchmen, if you read it. Um, he, she thinks Turley's the comedian reincarnated, and it's like, yeah. And throughout, you see these brief glimpses of what they did to train these people that were like in the Rorschach mask, like in the TV show. And I mean, I could totally see people buying that into that because I know I don't talk about it much, but I do, in fact, have a mental handicap as well. And I know what it's like when someone's trying to convince you of something that you just don't believe is true. You know, your brain like fights against it, and you try to square away that piece. I mean, and also it reminded me of Fight Club when they built the little house of like all these people that were supposedly helping Laura. I forget what they call her now, but like Lady Rorschach or whatever. And I love Fight Club. Fight Club and It's a Wonderful Life are my two favorite movies. So, and the one guy I heard some people say could could have been Reggie, the guy that took over his father's practice, which would firmly plant this in the TV show universe, not the not the movie universe or the other Watchmen universe, but the TV show. And this detective spends all that time trying to square away that why do the stories match up so well. And I just thought that was pretty neat as well. I mean, it shows how obsession can take over your mind and, you know, lead you to pretty dark places. I mean, and if you don't believe that people would have fallen for Lois Crap, the lady that helps the, the, the Steve Ditko stand-in try to assassinate Charlie, go back and rewatch my before Watchmen Rorschach video and tell me that that version that person couldn't have found for something like this. I mean, I'm pretty gullible. I know that. I know there are other people out there that are gullible too, and if you are gullible, that's no fault of yours. You know, that's how your brain was wired. And, and they made Frank Miller Rorschach, like the artist Frank Miller. I never thought they'd do that, but um yeah, it was just made me wonder about the whole thing regarding Frank Miller and Otto Bender and the seance in these books. Could that have taken place? You know, I kind of get the feeling Frank Miller's ill in real life, so maybe it's a tribute to him. I don't know. Maybe they're just saying Frank Miller's great. Maybe there's. I don't know what they're trying to say there. You know. Um. But I know that's kind of. kind of pulls away from the big climax in the detective's head that's following all this, and it pulls away from the obsession he feels. But at the same time, you gotta keep in mind that regardless of what they're trying to say, Frank Miller being Rorschach in the next 10 years ain't gonna matter because of what they do in the book itself. I mean, they're not saying that, oh, that's a great idea. They're saying, it's a, in my opinion anyway. The last the last issue is basically the detective trying to circle the square of all this case, and it was when I was going through my stuff, I remember feeling that way. You know, I remember feeling flustered and angry, and they capture that real well. Like I said, they address what 9/11 would look like in the Watchmen universe because Bin Laden still gets captured, and it turns out Frank Miller has like an in with the government, which I don't entirely buy. They probably made that for the thing, but um, yeah, it turns out that the Redford campaign might be behind the Turley assassination, or like the efforts or whatever. Um, but yeah, everything else you're led to believe took place the way it took place, you know. And the reason I think that this takes place in the show universe is that it just fits better there. It doesn't like contradict before Watchmen, but it does at the same time fit nicely into the world where a bunch of these people have been recruited to be Rorschach, and they're all planning to kidnap Dr. Manhattan. It just fits nice. And they're like pumping an elephant filled with. It just fits nice in the show. Yeah. I could see like Ozzy's daughter popping up at the end and saying, "You're not wrong," or just outright, or just outright killing the detective. It'll be interesting to see how they end this because, like I said, you start questioning what's going on with these flashbacks, like right from the start, right from the get go. As soon as these flashbacks started happening, But toward the end of what's happening here in this book, you see that finding out all this stuff, following the Meyerson and all them other guys have taken its toll on the detective, and he is just like ready to break. Also, at this time, although I can appreciate it for being fine art now, I don't think it would have helped like 10 years ago when I was going through some stuff. I hope that they don't like get like hate letters for this. It's just a book, people. No. Yeah. So regardless, they don't you don't get to see what New York looks like now. So you don't find out if it's an EMP like in the movie or a giant squid attack like in the TV show and book. There hasn't been any reference to to Looking Glass. So I'm not expecting him to show up at the end, but you never know. They did change some stuff, like Saddam Hussein killed himself, which, if you remember reality, if you're old enough, he didn't kill himself in our reality. They hung him. It wasn't like in Young Blood. It was genuinely broadcast on CNN. You know, also educate yourself on history, people, because if they can't do proper political satire, then all's probably lost for the future. Because if someone just picked this up and thought that that was what happened, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Steve Ditko did write like something like The Citizen, which is Mr. A, but also at the same time, some of the big stuff has been changed. So, pardon me. I don't think this detective character has a name. I think we follow him around throughout the whole book, but I don't like he sees Laura and the guy in a Rorschach mask through the whole book, and he talks to him. I was leaning towards it being Dan, but I don't think it is. I think it's just some guy that overworked, overstressed, fell in with crazies, and just has no name. Um, Hopefully nothing bad happens to him at the end. So this is not a review of the end of Rorschach, but it's just an overview of what I thought of the books so far. To my knowledge, the end has not come out yet. They could still firmly plant it in the book universe versus the TV show. They could have him walk outside and just be like Reggie in Doomsday Clock, where he just loses it because of the pulsating squid or whatever. You know, that could be how they end it. But again, I doubt it. The way this book's going, there's either going to be a firm, proper sequel, or there's going to be something bad happen to the detective character that is, yeah, that's following all these people around. If you genuinely liked the first Watchmen and liked the motion comic and all the other stuff like that, I'd say pick it up. But at the same time, read at your own risk. It was good, but you gotta know the twist at the end. And do not give this to kids. I know there are parents that watch my videos that think, oh, could think, oh, this this is a good book to give my kids. But I'm telling you, it's a black label book. No. Just no. I don't know how you that head scratch was for. I don't know how you'd get a kid into Watchmen because even the cleanest thing regarding Watchmen, which I think was was Doomsday Clock, even the cleanest thing wasn't that clean. Yes, it had Batman in it, and yes, Doomsday Clock had Superman, but at the same time, nah, wasn't it wasn't just I still wouldn't give it to a kid. Yeah. So anyway, overall I'd give this book a four, maybe. Not a complete five, because Mom and I both agree that it stories went on a little long, and they could have established from the get go that the detective was having flash, like he was, as he was putting it together, you could actually see that he was kind of losing it too. I mean, I don't think one book from the end is enough where that's firmly established, you know. Yeah. So, So that's all I gotta say about that. I mean, and it feels like I should say more. That's the biggest flaw with this book. You always feel like you should say more, they could say more, but they don't. Like, they picked on Steve Ditko, but they didn't, like, show Stan Lee, and they picked on, like, some real world facts, but they didn't pick on, like, interesting facts, like, like the guy that really in real life dressed himself up like a superhero, Phoenix Jones. I'd love to see what he's like in the Watchmen universe. What is he? What is he? What's his deal? I mean, I get that that had a sad ending too, but and if you're interested, you will look it up. I advise you to look this book up at the very least. Look up people's responses to it. Look look up more interesting facts they could have put in it. Do your own research. You know, I like the technology had stopped. Like at tape decks and stuff like that. Um yeah. But yeah. Hopefully you do a good ending, DC. Did you I want to know your opinion. Am I wrong? Will DC do a bad ending? Was Doomsday Clock even worse? And here's why, Bob. Didn't did you not like that they put the Justice League together? Do you disagree that one of the three guys helping him couldn't be Reggie? Um, what's up with the ink splats? Did you like Frank Miller just being in the book? Do you feel that Marvel editorial wouldn't have consented for Stan Lee being in this book? Do you think it was right to pick on Steve Ditko? All these things I'd like to know your thoughts on. Did it remind you of Fight Club? So many questions, so little answers. Leave me your thoughts in the comments below. Like as well. Dislike if you dislike it. But keep in mind that I've been Bob, and subscribe too. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. And this is the world according to Bob. That's the world and the way I see it, the way I saw this book. And before I have any more questions, blah. Excuse me.